What's up, everyone? Welcome to NBA RotoGrinders Live. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich. Dean still away for the week. No Steve behind the scenes. We got two men handling it all by ourselves today until the Crunch Time crew comes in. Joining me today, we got Chris Prince Beer. How you doing today?
I'm good, brother. What else do we need? You and I are ready to rock with the people, talk some NBA, start the weekend off right, win some money out there. So, big slate of games, lots of injuries to wade through. Excited to talk through this slate.
Yeah, I'm excited after a night of 2 nights in a row of 6-game slates, which admittedly are probably my favorite for DFS perspectives. Kind of tough to, fill the time for Grinders Live, especially when it was one like 2 nights ago where we didn't have any value. Last night, we had a lot more, but apparently the value I thought we had wasn't the value we had. Dean in chat giving me a tough time for my Bones Highland call. Thought he would get in there a little bit earlier than the last 6 minutes. He did great point per minute when he was out there. But I definitely thought he was going to pick up a little bit more there. Beard, how's your week of NBA been going?
Solid so far. Kind of an up and down week. Had a couple good nights, a couple down nights. So hopefully tonight, we're back on that upswing here heading into the weekend. NFL right around the corner, big weekend of games. So start the weekend right here. So again, a fun slate, lots to wade through in this one. A lot bigger than DraftKings slicing off those games as usual. Kind of frustrating, but still a nice slate of games tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I think we got, 8-9 on FanDuel, and then
7 and 9, I believe.
7 and 9. Yeah, a little smaller on DraftKings, but still, as long as they got that San Antonio and Denver game, which they do, I'm still happy about it. We're waiting on LaMelo Ball's questionable. Jalen Brunson, who admittedly the other day I thought it was a fake questionable because he had been questionable the last 3 games and played in all of them, but he was out for that one. And then Miles McBride also happened to get ruled out as a late scratch and messed everybody up. But we also have Jaylen Brown questionable, Brandon Miller questionable, Kristaps Porzingis, PJ Washington. A lot of news we're still waiting on, and a lot of exciting spend ups today. I feel like the last couple days have been, for the most part, lacking guys to spend up for, and tonight that is certainly not the case. Smash that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Free content on a Friday. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm. We also got Film Friday going on today. So get the likes up and get your answers in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chats. 1 guess per clue. It's Film Friday today. I'll fire up the first clue right now. And clue number 1 is wrench. Wrench is clue number 1. So get your guesses in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. Winner gets 1 free week of RotoGrinders Premium or Scores and Odds. It's a fun one. We got a big slate. Let's dive into it. Part of me wants to skip the first game and just wait on it because we might get this news before lock here. But Charlotte is going into Detroit. Just saw this game a few days ago. 6.5 point spread. LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Cody Martin, all listed as questionable for Charlotte. Detroit, we don't have to wait on any news, and they're looking like we got some pretty darn good values over there. Let's start with the Detroit side of things because we know what we're doing already. Who do you like over there?
Yeah, Charlotte's tough until hopefully we get some news here soon. But, LaMelo trending towards playing, it seems like. So I think out of the two, between him and Miller, Ball probably a little bit more likely to go here. But you nailed it, Detroit. I think we're going to get some great value here without Jaden Ivey in that lineup. The first guy that jumps off the page, Ausar Thompson, whose role just continues to grow. The minutes are up. We know this is a guy that can get it done in a variety of ways. And I love those kind of guys where you're not dependent on 1 or 2 categories. He's a guy that can get it done in so many different ways. So at just 4,000, he is going to be very popular. I think north of 50% on Ausar Thompson. So you want to be mindful of that when you're building your lineups. That you're mixing in some low-owned plays, obviously, but he's not the only one. I mean, Tobias Harris is under 5,000. I think he could provide some scoring for this team. Cade, maybe he gets left out in the cold a little bit. As far as ownership goes, at 9,900, people may want to go up even higher. Like I said, a lot of great spend-up options on this slate tonight. So those are the three that jump out for me. Stewart, Duren kind of cannibalize each other a little bit. I prefer Duren, even though he's a little bit more expensive. That's probably about it for me. Beasley is interesting, but 5,500, I'd rather go with a Harris or Thompson at that price.
Yeah, that's the exact same page that I'm on with that one. Thompson, and we're gonna have some chalky value plays today with Outstar Thompson and Stephon Castle. And I'd like to, in a normal lineup, just get away from one of them, probably, to if I'm doing like a 3-entry max or a single entry. But one way I really don't mind playing them together is, and we'll get to this at the end, but a Wemby and Jokic stack together.
Okay.
Tough to do, but not many people are playing Wemby today, and I think even fewer will play them both together. So I like the idea of, if I am going to play the chalky value plays today, use it to spend up to somebody contrarian, and Victor Wembanyama is one of those guys that I would want to do it with. I like the Cade call as well. I think he's a fantastic spend up today. Maybe somebody like a Malik Beasley or Tobias Harris get there. Like you said, maybe like one of those guys is probably going to be fine. I don't want to play Duren at 6-1. We could, I think, take shots on Isaiah Stewart at $3,400 just because he's so cheap, played 21 minutes last game. So I do think Stewart is a very viable value play there.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, like I said, Duren, Stewart are normally guys I'm not playing a ton of just because there's better options, and why try to guess which guy it's going to be. So the point is valid. Stewart a lot cheaper. Tim Hardaway, another guy, should play a ton of minutes at a cheap price point. Not my favorite value here, but maybe a way to get different in this game.
Agree with you 100%. On the Charlotte side of things, assuming everybody plays, let's look at it from that angle first. I feel like Miles Bridges is still priced low enough where he'd be somewhat interesting. And then Mark Williams, I think, would be the only other guy that would be even remotely of interest.
Yeah, Williams still too cheap. I mean, this is a guy playing very well. The minutes are trending up. So 5,500, just too cheap of a price point for him. So I do like him. LaMelo's always in my player pool. So if he's in there, that ceiling is not matched by many players. So we'll say that. And people sometimes will hesitate. Guys coming back from injuries, and let's wait and see what it looks like. So it depends. If Miller and Ball are back, I'm probably nixing both of them. But if Miller remains out, Ball's in there, he's the guy running that offense, going to take the majority of the shots. I like the Bridges call. Little homecoming narrative coming back, to Michigan, where he played college ball at Michigan State. He's been playing some good ball. And then if they're both out, Micic is a guy like I've gotten right, I've gotten wrong. He's all over the map as far as production goes, but he would be in my player pool. Well, especially if Ball and Miller are both out. If Ball's out, he's of slight interest with Miller back.
Yeah, I've been going out of my way to fade him recently when he's been like 30-40% owned, and it's gone pretty well. But I actually don't. If we get a late rule out from LaMelo Ball, I don't think Micic is going to become super chalky because he's failed everybody recently, and most people are kind of expecting Ball to be back. I don't think a lot of people are going to get onto him. So a low ownership Micic with a ton of minutes, I'll definitely take that shot.
Yeah, he's one of those. We all have our list of players. When they're highly owned, let's avoid them. When you can get a low owned guy like that, the chat's already bashing on him. I get it. He's had his opportunities and he's looked good in spots. He's looked absolutely horrific and lost in spots as well. So I understand the negative sentiment out there from the chat. But like you said, if it's a late news, low owned, we know the upside is there. So that's the time you capitalize, take advantage on it.
Mark Williams, potential cash game option. I faded him the other night against Chicago, and then he just decided to shoot 100% from the field, get 12 rebounds. That game went into overtime. So that fade didn't go super well. But if he's highly owned, that's another guy I think I would want to get off of. Detroit, a bit tougher of a defensive matchup than Chicago is inside. So Williams definitely looking like a solid cash play, but at that 20+% ownership, I do feel like I might want to get off of that a little bit.
Yeah, I can't blame you there. So cash games, like you said, he's cheap enough. He's probably $700-800 too cheap. I would say he's probably a low to mid sixes player, and we're getting him at mid fives. But ownership certainly, I'm not concerned with the ownership right around this 20% mark. If it trends up any higher and he's pushing towards 30, I think we can look elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's when it starts to get worrisome. As soon as you see that 30% mark getting close to that. Orlando and Toronto coming up next. Maybe the least exciting game on the whole slate here. We got a 2-point spread. Orlando missing a bunch of guys, but they've all been priced up for the occasion. Toronto finally getting healthy here. Or let's look at the Orlando Magic side of things first. I think the two big men are in play, Goga Bitadze and Wendell Carter Jr. Don't really love either of them. Jalen Suggs is projecting really well in the shot quality projections. And if you want access to the shot quality projections, it's some of the most advanced data, NBA data in the market. You can get them at rotogrinders.com/shot quality. You can get 1 month access for $40 or yearly for $200. Just want to give it a test run. Try it with a 3-day pass for $9.99. Or you want the RotoGrinders projections. We want to help you take something down as the holiday season comes to a close. We're giving you $10 off your first month of Combo Lite. That means access to SimLabs lineup building tool and content from some of your favorite DFS analysts for just $19.99. Like I said, Suggs projecting really well in the shot quality projections, almost 47 fantasy points. Still very good in the RotoGrinders ones at almost 44. So who do you like on the Orlando side of things? I feel like those three are really the only ones to consider, unless maybe we start getting Anthony Black out, then that could open up a few more things.
Yeah, if Black's out, maybe Cole Anthony moves up a little bit. I don't like his minutes projection right now, obviously barely any projection. So KCP, a guy I rarely play, he's going to play a ton of minutes and once in a while pop off. So you can make an argument in your GPP lineups if you need the savings there, but I'm with you. It's mostly the big guys here. I think I prefer Carter over Bitadze. Bitadze's been playing well, but it's a pretty big price discrepancy between the two. 2,100. Finally saw some big minutes out of Wendell Carter. It's kind of what's been holding him back. So it was nice to see 34 minutes last time out. Will we get a similar range? Tough to predict. We have him at 28 here tonight, so I prefer Carter. And Suggs, a guy, the production is just so up and down, but with nobody else to provide offense, he is of interest. I don't love the price at 8,300. I do like the projection, like you mentioned, especially the shot quality numbers in comparison with our RotoGrinders projections, but probably Carter for me here, maybe a little bit of Suggs, and that's probably it. Orlando just such I'll say a boring team. Sorry to our Orlando Magic fans out there, but just not a lot to get excited without Banchero and Wagner in that lineup. So Carter, though, looks like a pretty good value at 5,100.
Yeah, I was playing a lot of Banchero and Wagner early in the season, but without them, don't really want to get there all that much. On the Toronto side of things, I never really want to play people against Orlando. Orlando is a very slow, strong defensive team. Scotty Barnes has been priced way up. But having said that, Emmanuel quickly stepped right back in after his first game back after a long absence. 32 minutes, 51 DraftKings points. He is not priced at the point that he should be for joining with the Raptors. And he's only projecting for 12% ownership right now. Quickly might be my favorite tournament play on the slate, despite the terrible matchup.
I would expect that number to rise here as we get closer to lock. RJ Barrett is officially out now. He was questionable all day long. So, once people catch on, RJ Barrett's out. I think the ownership's going to go up on both Quickly and Scotty Barnes here. And I don't mind it. You love the price on Quickly. We're talking cash games. I think he's one of the closest locks that we can get at that price point. Barnes, I do like a lot here as well, but that matchup, it's not easy and boring and slow. Like you mentioned, Orlando's just a, grind it out type of team. So Quickly would be of the most interest to me. Agbaji's likely going to start again. So I think there's value there. And Barnes, the price is getting up there, 9,800 in a tough matchup. If the ownership is low enough, I don't mind taking a shot for that upside, but likely a pass for me at 9,800.
Yeah, just a bit too expensive for Barnes with everybody back in there in a tough matchup. That's the type, I would still take a shot on that price if, say, Quickly was still out and they're playing the Bulls, the Wizards, somebody like that, but not against this Orlando team. Pirtle, I do think maybe there's still a little meat on the bone. Like he's pretty consistently 30 to 35 fantasy points. Every now and then he hits a big ceiling, so I don't mind Pirtle. And then Grady Dick without RJ Barrett, I still think he's pretty nice as well. He took 17 shot attempts last game without Barrett, 8 threes. So he's going to fire up a lot of jumpers without RJ Barrett in the lineup. So I think he's in play as well. Maybe would want to set this to like a max 1 just because it's Orlando. I don't want to be stacking up this game by any means. But Dick or Quickly, I think very interesting in this spot. Let's go Film Friday. Clue number 2. Get your guesses in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chats. 1 guess per clue. Hit the like button for us on YouTube. For Film Friday, clue number 2 is sandwich. So number 1 is wrench. Number 2 is sandwich. So get your guesses in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord.
I'm stumped, by the way. I got nothing. We'll see. I'll throw something in our private chat here just so I can use my guess. But so far, you're on it.
I would say number 3 is, I think you could make the connections if somebody's thinking about the right thing. Number 4, I think, really opens it up to get easy. Number 5, we'll definitely have a winner by number 5. I'll say that. But third game on the slate, Boston at Houston. You know what? Just in case, there's 3 8 o'clock games. Just in case, let's do that one last because we are still waiting on the Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis news. Maybe we get that as we're going through these other ones. So let's go Washington at the Pelicans. Speaking of one of those terrible defenses, big total in this one, 7.5 point spread. New Orleans is favored. You know, we talked about those shot quality projections already, and one team that always pops so strong in the shot quality projections is New Orleans, and that is certainly the case again tonight. On the Washington side of things, they're all of a sudden getting pretty darn healthy. There's a few guys I want to take shots on for GPPs for sure, but they don't look near as good as they had a few days ago.
Yeah, this is a very interesting. Anytime I see Washington on the slate, I get excited because you want exposure. You want to stack against them. I think there's so many ways that you can attack this awful Washington defense. So for me, it starts with DeJounte Murray, back healthy, just kind of the catalyst here for this offense. Without Zion, without Ingram, he's kind of been carrying the load. But you can go down and hit almost every price point for New Orleans. I prefer Murphy over McCollum. For a little bit cheaper. If you're looking at those 2 guys, Alvarado's back in that lineup. He's under 6,000. Washington been horrible against centers, so Missy certainly in play as well. So this is a team I wouldn't say I want 1 or 2 in every lineup, but certainly a team I want a lot of exposure to, with Murray being my favorite, along with some of the value with a guy like Missy, Alvarado, and I do love some Trey Murphy. He's been such a good scorer for this team, has really stepped up his game. To me, one of the most improved players in the league this season.
Love that call. Not only to play Murphy tonight, but on the most improved basis. I love him tonight. McCollum is currently projecting for the highest ownership of this whole team. And I'm with you. If that's going to be the case, I'll definitely play Murphy instead, get up to DeJounte Murray whenever I can. Misi at 5,800, I think is a solid price tag for him. That's like, a large field GPP only kind of play for me because he's so volatile, but the matchup couldn't be better. And at 5,800, we know he's got a huge ceiling for that price tag. Herb Jones, I never like playing. Like I never really want to play.
That's why I didn't match. I see him projecting well, and I'm like, I just don't play a lot of Herb Jones. If we're playing defensive DFS, sure, let me get him in that lineup. But I'm with you. He is cheap though. I mean, that's a pretty good price on him, and you got to love the matchup.
It's just on a big slate. I never feel like I'm going to lose because I don't have Herb Jones.
Yeah.
He's probably going to get 25. He might get 30 or 35, but I'm never really worried that he's going to break a slate for me. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to avoid him, I think, especially at 25% projected ownership. The Washington side's going pretty low owned here. I really like Jonas Valanciunas for tournaments, basically every game. And he's the only one projecting for double-digit ownership on this whole team.
Yeah, there's some value here. I don't mind. It's just always minutes with Valanciunas. Per minute, phenomenal. But is he going to play 19 or 20 minutes, or do we actually get something in the high 20s, low 30s on minutes? So always intrigued by him. Always a guy that I'm looking at. And again, price is certainly fair on him. They are dealing with some injuries as well. So Koulibaly being out, I think is going to open things up for guys like Brogdon, Kispert, Champagne. I think some of those guys are interesting here. You just hope they don't get blown out of the building. The spread isn't too high, but could certainly see this one getting out of hand and Washington playing a bunch of scrubs at the end. But like I said, ownership is certainly there. Prices are fair. I think Washington may go overlooked here. And if they can keep this game competitive, I think there's some good value with this team.
Yeah, they're filled with, like, much like an Eves Misi, filled with guys that are high ceiling, low floor, like
Oh
Jonas
yeah.
Valanciunas, like Alexander Sarr, like Jordan Poole. I think Poole I do have interest in at 8,200, especially if I'm going to be playing multiple New Orleans players. He's the type of guy that could go 0 for 25, but he could also go 20 for 25 and make a splash. If you want to make a splash and you haven't signed up for Splash Sports, now is
Well
still the
done.
time. Use promo code ROTO10, and when you play $100 in quick picks, you get another $50 right back. Splashsports.com/RotoGrinders homepage. And those quick picks have been a lot of fun. Those lines don't move near as fast as they do as on some of the other props and pick'em sites. So go to RotoGrinders homepage on the Splash Sports page and use code ROTO10. And you can also take some of the picks you find in our props and pick'em package. Expert picks from all your favorite sites with props and pick'em. Our elite sports betting and fantasy pick'em package. That's a lot of pick'em and props I've said in the last minute. Featured bets and analysis from your favorite RotoGrinders experts. Props and pick'em also includes tools and data powered by our hard-working projections team. Don't make a bet without it. Those two are two of the great packages to pair together. You know, you take the props and pick'em, and then you take your promo code over to Splash Sports, and you can make yourself some money with some nice discounts. Let's go to the next game here on the slates. We're still going to skip past the Boston game for now, and we'll talk New York Knicks and OKC. On the OKC side of things, they're coming in healthy here, but the Knicks still have Jalen Brunson and Miles McBride, both questionable, which is huge because they run such a tight rotation as it is. Assuming everybody is in for now, is there anybody you like on the Knicks?
Okay, I was gonna start gushing about Cameron Payne, but we'll wait on that. I mean, it was nice to see him finally have some big minutes, a solid game. Obviously, he'll be very highly owned if both of those guys are out. But this is one of those games. I'm more excited to watch this game than to play it in DFS, if that makes sense. I mean, I think these are two of the true contenders. Sure, both teams can be very good offensively, but defensively, these are some pretty good teams here. 223.5 on the total. Not quite as low as Orlando, Toronto, some of the games we talked about earlier, but this one, not a ton of interest. I mean, I'm always going to make a case for a guy like SGA. I mean, just the immense upside that he brings to the table, but no one really jumps out here. I mean, Case and Wallace, decent value, sure. Dort, these guys are going to play minutes, but it's 20 fantasy points that exciting for 4K. So probably not. So Hartenstein against Towns, interesting battle there. Little revenge maybe for Hartenstein. Josh Hart is always a guy I love, as I mentioned earlier, guys that can do so many different things and rack up fantasy points in so many different ways. So that's probably about it, though. There's not a lot jumping out of this game for me.
I agree. SGA Hartenstein kind of always stay in the pool. Like you said, a little revenge for Hartenstein. SGA can have a monster outing on any night. So if he's low owned, he's always in there for me. Now, on the Knicks side of things, if everybody's in, because they're so low owned, I'm playing 150 lineups. I will definitely be overweight on Towns at projected 5%. I'll be overweight on Brunson at projected 2% because I'll try and get at least 5. Josh Hart is at 8%. And he's a guy that he's been playing absolutely nuts lately.
Yeah,
triple doubles in back-to-back games, at least 11 rebounds in 5 straight. Hart is the guy that I probably like best, regardless of if anyone's out. But then if Brunson and McBride are out, this is where we can really get excited. Towns becomes one of a great tournament spend up. Hart's even better. Bridges will get a usage boost. OG will get a little usage boost, though I'm a little less interested in those two. And like you said, I'll leave the floor to you for Cameron Payne.
I mean, I've always been a fan. He's just one of those guys that he generally, when he's given an opportunity, given minutes, he's productive. And we know the Knicks, like you said, are going to play a very small core of guys. So if those two are out, he's going to be locked into another game of 30, 35 minutes here. And hard not to produce at 4,000 when you're running a good offense with all these pieces around you. Even if he puts up 30, we're happy with that. So if it's late news, I think the ownership won't get too out of control. Certainly, people are keeping an eye on this situation. They want to cram in more value, but he's a guy I really, really like when he's given this opportunity. So we'll keep an eye on it. Hopefully we get some news here. I would expect one of the two back, Brunson, McBride, but you never know, unfortunately. So if they're out, Payne, one of the best values, cash game lock for me.
Yeah, absolutely. If Brunson's out, even then, if McBride is in, he or Payne, whichever one is the starter, is the guy that you're saying that's a cash game lock. This is probably the best value on the entire slate now, 100%. And then definitely don't want to forget about Towns and Hart in that situation. I think they're viable even if Brunson plays, but if they're out, definitely want to bump them up the list as well.
Yeah, and they'll all get a bump. You brought up all the names. OG is a guy a lot of people have, he hasn't really been doing much, so he could be the lowest owned guy with some upside. We know Bridges can pop off for some big games, and the offense going to run through Karl Anthony Towns. It already does. Now you take Brunson out, that's even more for him. So those ownership numbers I would expect not to be as juicy as you're seeing them now. If there's injury news, obviously they're going to take a bump, but I still don't think they get to where they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. James Brown in chat saying McBride hamstring killed my lineups. Yeah, killed everybody's lineups. Yeah. He was about 60% owned. I was lucky. I had 80% McBride in my 150 set, but the 20% that didn't have McBride had campaign without McBride. And so those 20 lineups managed to have it so I broke even on the other 130. So I'm
wrong with that. Could have been worse.
Yeah, could have been something pretty great though. James Brown says he's never ever rostering him again.
Goofy.
Greg Ehrenberg he's an analyst over at Stochastic, and he brings this up on Twitter all the time. And I couldn't agree more with his point that we would not have these types of issues if the NBA actually just started their games on time. Like, right. There's absolutely no reason for them to start their main warm-ups after, or like finish up their warm-ups after the games have already locked, then go through the national anthem, et cetera, et cetera. That should all happen before the game locks. Give us the exact, you don't have to start them earlier if you don't want, just give us the exact start time, have it lock at that time, and then we wouldn't have to worry about any of that. But Film Friday, clue number 3. Get your guesses in the RotoGrinders live stream, Discord chat. Throw them, and you can if you want, put them in the YouTube chat, but you won't win anything. Still, YouTube, smash the like button. We get up to 100 likes. Beer and I will give our slate breaking plays today, so smash that like button. Help us battle that YouTube algorithm. Film Friday, clue number 3 is Bop. Bop is clue number 3. So we got Wrench, we got Sandwich, we got Bop. 3 clues, Film Friday. Throw them in the RotoGrinders.
I'm still at a loss over here.
It'll all make sense in the end.
Oh, it always does at the end. You're like, oh, yeah, that wasn't too hard. But, on the venture to the answer is always the tough part here. So
we got Sean in chat. Look, Sean, I already acknowledged this.
Sean must have just got here. TJ already.
Bones Island did not go well. I'm aware Bones Island did not go well. I thought he would get in before the last 6 minutes. I apologize. I was incorrect on that one. I'll take accountability. I maintain that he was incredibly high upside because he had it in those 6 minutes, 8.25 fantasy points. But I thought he was going to get a little more with James Harden out. Probably should have pivoted off of him when Kevin Porter wasn't starting, and because that put Chris Dunn as the starting point guard, Kevin Porter is the backup point guard. Where our Bones' minutes going to come from. But if I'm being honest, I was just a little bit too lazy, a little bit too busy to make the pivot off of that in my own personal lineup. We didn't get any news. We tried to hold off, but we got Boston at Houston. It's a 2-point spread with Boston only favored by 2, even though it's in Houston. That has me thinking that obviously that'll adjust as soon as we get news, but that has me thinking that at least Vegas doesn't think Jaylen Brown and Kristaps Porzingis are going to play.
Didn't sound too optimistic when I was looking earlier. So I would expect them both to be out. Horford's out as well. So this becomes, Jason Tatum, to me, one of the best spend ups on the slate. I mean, the usage just goes through the roof without Jaylen Brown in the lineup. So he would be a primary guy, even in this matchup. Not the easiest matchup with Houston, but even at the price point, $10,200, not cheap. He becomes a guy I really want in my lineups. And then you start filtering down to the Derek Whites of the world, Pritchards, Drew Holidays, this Hauser start to get more minutes without Horford, Cornette, Kada, who's going to play there. So this Tatum, though, really stands out to me, and Derek White, probably the second guy. The centers, I don't know if I want to mess with that. I think there's better value, or spend a little bit more on a Mark Williams, stuff like that. But they are certainly in play with Horford on the sidelines as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of forgot to consider the Horford aspect of this. That probably does make a Cornet or a Kada very good value play if we happen to get Porzingis out here. And you mentioned Tatum, like you said, his usage skyrockets without Brown, and his rebounding skyrockets without Porzingis. So he does immediately become one of the very best spend ups. Imagine, say, we get Brown and Porzingis out. Who do you prefer at a utility position? I mean, you wouldn't have it in utility because these are early, but you know what I mean.
I got you.
Cade Cunningham or Jason Tatum?
Tatum.
I think that's the same boat for me as well.
And I love Cade, but you take Jaylen Brown out, Tatum for sure. And Derek White would move up a lot in my lineup as well. He steps in. He's kind of that utility guy for this team. Yeah. They go play this position, and he can do a little bit of everything. So maybe you can't get to Tatum for whatever reason. Derek White is of heavy interest for me tonight as well.
And I think this is a much better spot for Pritchard than last night was as well. You throw in the addition of Al Horford out. Boston will likely have no choice but to close small. Yeah. And you look at a team like Houston with Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, and Dylan Brooks all on the court at once. That's fine. You can close small against them. So really, really like Pritchard and Drew Holiday in this spot. Holiday, back-to-back games, over 30 fantasy points, 38 minutes last game without Porzingis and Jaylen Brown. So love him in this spot. On the Houston side of things, never really liked targeting teams against Boston. Having said that, if I'm playing, say if I want to play a lineup that has Tatum, White, and one of the cheaper guys, something like that, I'll probably want to try a Houston run back. Without Porzingis or Horford, as long as he can stay on the court because it doesn't get too fast for him, Şengün should smash. We got
that's my guy as well.
Yeah.
I mean, who is going to defend him? I mean, they're going to throw some bodies at him and kind of use fouls, and that's part of the concern with playing the Cornets, the Kadas of the world. Is Şengün's going to eat them up down low? So are those guys even on the floor enough to be viable as a value play? So I do like Şengün a lot here. Dylan Brooks continues to play a ton of minutes. He's always a guy I never really want to play, but playing that many minutes, even in a matchup with Boston, is certainly intriguing. And then Whitmore starting to come on a little bit, with Thompson on the shelf, it's opening things up a little bit more. So he's a decent value here tonight as well, under 4,000.
Yeah, I like that call quite a bit as well. I'm going to be loading up this Boston team. Whitmore is cheap, 3,900. Like, I do like that. I think there's a scenario. Now, I know this is really, really gross. If I play 150 lineups, I like to try and take a few of these shots. I think there is a scenario that Jayshawn Tate at 3,100 could get there to get some nice, like if he gets 20 minutes because this game goes small, I think he could provide some nice value here. We did just get Kyrie Irving ruled out with an illness. Boy. So luckily we got Dallas coming up here still to talk about, but Irving wasn't even on the injury report. Washington is still listed as questionable. It's unfortunate that we have the Dinwiddies and the Grimeses. They're like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Priced up. But even without that, I still think we're going to get some nice value here on Dallas. So we'll get to that game shortly. And in fact, we'll get to that game next. We have Cleveland at Dallas. Total's going to change. Spread's about to change. If you can get on Cleveland now before the books change it, try and get on that really quick. But on the Cleveland side of things, we'll hopefully give projections a chance to update here. And maybe I'll give the fourth Film Friday clue after we talk about Cleveland so that we can get a projection update. So who do you like on the Cleveland side?
This instantly becomes a situation you worry about a blowout. I mean, they were 7.5, 8-point favorites without Kyrie. So what's that spread going to go to? Probably double digits here for Cleveland. Now, huge team total for this team. So yes, the blowout is a concern, but they're going to put up some stats for sure. So Mitchell's always a guy I'm interested in. 8,400 tonight, not a bad price on him. I think Strus is solid value, just 4,000. Garland at 7,300 is of interest. So blowout of concern, but one of the higher team totals on the slate here. You just kind of ease in cautiously here. Can Dallas find a way? If PJ Washington is out as well, I mean, I don't know where this team's going to generate a ton of offense from. We're going to go through the names, and they're going to be highly owned like we saw the other night. But so my favorites in this one, probably Donovan Mitchell, just for his ceiling. Again, Garland, I think Max Strus, decent value again at 4,000.
Yeah, he is. I got lucky. I managed to pick him up in my season-long fantasy team. Not that it matters because my team is terrible. I keep forgetting to set my roster. But Max Strus, I managed to pick him up right before his first game back. And so he has been doing well for me there as a low-end piece in season-long. And I think at 4K, that's a great spot for him in this matchup as well. I like that call. Film Friday, guess number 4. It's a little early for clue number 4, but we're going to throw it in. We have not had anyone guess it yet. We have had some good guesses, but nothing has hit it. Clue number 4 is gossip. Gossip is clue number 4. So we have wrench, sandwich, bop, and gossip. Gossip is clue number 4. Get your guesses in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat and smash the like button if you are watching us on YouTube. I'll refresh here. I doubt we got that Dallas projection update that quick since Kyrie wasn't even on the injury report. So they'll have to make some adjustments, not just plug in a new file. So yeah, he's still in there for now. But Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen absolutely in play as kind of spends here. If you want to take shots on Strus or Karis LeVert in a large field tournament as a value, I have no problem with it. On the Dallas side of things, Dinwiddie's priced up, Grimes is priced up, but there's still, I think, as our guy Chief likes to say, a lot of meat on the bone on those ones. And then Jaden Hardy at 4,300. He disappointed last time in this spot, but I do think I still like him as a value play. 25% usage rate last game.
Yeah, he's kind of in the Cameron Payne category for me. I see the potential. You watch him, you're like, all right, this kid can play. So he's going to have to get more run here tonight. Always risky, always dangerous. Can just dud, but can also give you a legit 10x return on the salary. So I like him. Dinwiddie probably, it's going to be I don't feel be as highly owned as he was the other night at 60-some%, whatever he was in whatever contest I was in, but he's the main beneficiary here. I mean, if PJ Washington's in, maybe people forget about him. You can go that route, but it's not only Luka, Kyrie, no Najee Marshall either. I mean, this team is absolutely decimated. So Dinwiddie, Clay, Grimes, all kind of in that mid-range guys that you're going to want to work in. Yes, potential blowout is there, but they're still going to put up some points. So Dinwiddie being my favorite. And then I would probably take a shot on Hardy. That's, Payne, Hardy, those are right now are the guys that I'm really excited about. We'll see if we get that Knicks news, but Dinwiddie, my favorite here, no doubt.
And it's crazy how important not only the PJ Washington stuff still is, but even Maxi Kleber listed as questionable. He doesn't do a whole lot, but he's still projected for 20 minutes. And so that is a lot of minutes spread out. That could be, like a 6 to Jaden Hardy because they're forced to play a little bit smaller. Obviously, we're looking at a scenario very likely that Cleveland just blows the doors off of them.
That's most likely. I don't see any way Dallas keeps us competitive.
Yeah, for sure. But if Washington and Kleber are out, Cleveland plays so big and they don't have many big men left. We should get a lot of minutes for Gafford and Lively. It might even, if we get Kleber and Washington out, could we even see these guys share the court today?
They might have to. I mean, they're going to need some size. So it's rare that you see them. I don't know if they've spent many minutes at all on the floor together, but who else are they going to throw out there? I mean, they just don't have the bodies. So maybe it makes Jared Allen, Evan Mobley that much more interesting, in that they should be able to feast on the interior here.
They might play 3 quarters, but have a 20-20 in those 3 quarters.
Yep.
So here, I'll give one quick refresh, see if we've got an update.
Come back to it too if we don't have one. And
yeah, absolutely. If not, we'll come back to it, especially because if we get the PJ Washington news, we did just get the projection update, and so I'll throw it on the screen here. Hopefully my stuff don't freeze up with running the app and things like that to make sure people have audio. It's maybe a few too many programs until the crunch time crew comes in and I get my screen off here, but we'll give it a shot. PJ Washington looks like a good play, even with the raised price tag. Over 40-point projection for Dinwiddie and the shot quality projections. He looks like a really strong play. Grimes looks like a good value. I will always, no matter what, fade chop Klay Thompson. I will. He projects for 35 fantasy points here. I don't care. He's going to get up to 25, 30% owned now, and I'm not going to play him. I'm going to have 0% Klay Thompson. I'm just going to hit the X. So that's where I'm at with him. But basically everybody else I'm here to take shots on. We might get Prosper. All of our Maximal's Prosper value if we get the PJ Washington and or Klay out.
Could be OMP night. We'll see. But I think the minutes projections for Gafford, Lively are the only thing I'm kind of concerned with here. I'm expecting that they'll run him again in 22, 18 minutes. We just said, who else are they going to throw out there? So we may get some of these guys we barely heard of playing minutes. So Williams we have for 6 minutes, and who is Gortman? I think that guy's up from the G League. So this team is in trouble. And Klay, I'm glad you say that, because he's a guy I don't generally play a ton. I mean, he's of interest because they need the scoring, but I would much rather play Grimes, much rather play and spend a little bit more on Dinwiddie here, or go down, save some money on Hardy, who's up to 24-minute projection. I think that projection may be a little bit light if he's going to get 24 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you there. He hasn't been playing that great lately, but still, we've seen the massive, massive upside from him in the past. So I'm with you. Jaden Hardy, I'm going to really like as a value play. I want to bring up, as we've already gone on Cleveland, but Steve Jones brought up a great point in the YouTube chat. I think I actually really like this, and that's playing some Ty Jerome in blowout, assuming this is going to blow out. He's projected for 16 minutes in a normal game. If this does turn into a blowout and we see 20-plus minutes for Jerome, this is another guy that's always been a very good point-per-minute producer. You see pretty consistently over a fantasy point per minute. And so I really like that call. Shout out to Steve Jones in chat as a cheap blowout value play. Ty Jerome, I like that call.
Yeah, and this one could get away early where, okay, we don't get to the, say, fourth quarter blowout, but second quarter, Cleveland's up 20, whatever, 15. Okay, let's get Ty Jerome some minutes. We don't necessarily need to run our guys into the ground here. So that's a great call. And he's put some big games on the board when he's gotten his opportunity. So I don't think a lot of people are going to go there. That could be a way to get off of some of the chalk at these prices. If we end up with campaign and super chalk on some of these values, or Sir Thompson, Jerome could be a sneaky way to go, especially if you want to go part of a game stack with Dallas. I think there's a lot of ways you can do it.
Going back to these earlier games here for a second, because we haven't even talked about yet my very favorite game on the slate, and that is San Antonio and Denver. I have currently Ball, Bridges, and Williams still in the pool. I have Cunningham, Thompson, and Stewart still in the pool. No one for Orlando. And then Pirtle, Quickly, and Dick for Toronto. I'm so tempted to just it's tough because I like Quickly so much.
To not play the early games at all?
I just don't want to play any of these ones.
Well, as we went through, I was like, he's okay. He's decent. I do think Osor Thompson is solid value, but yeah, I mean, the Grady Dicks of the world, I think Quickly is solid. So it's always a fun way to do it. Okay, I'm just going to skip this whole opening couple of games, and hopefully they're ugly and they're slow as we'd expect with some of those games. And you're sitting pretty with a lot of PMR left.
Couldn't agree more. Christopher in chat says, no Suggs. No, not for me. I'm going without Suggs. There are just too many other guys in those later games that I really, really like on this slate. And one of those games filled with players that I like, it's San Antonio going up against Denver. Denver is a 6-point favorite in this one. But look, I've never seen Denver blow anybody out this entire year. Their defense is awful, which is one of the reasons why San Antonio has a 116 total in this one. It's the highest total on the board. Wemby's still coming in single-digit ownership. Chris Paul, sub 5% projection right now. Keldon Johnson and Castle are looking like they're going to be two of the chalkiest value plays on the slate. But as we've had more value open up now, I think those guys could go down a little bit. Top to bottom, I like this team because I think Castle, Champagny, and Keldon Johnson, all viable as values. I think in the mid-tier, Vassell and Chris Paul are both totally viable. And Wemby is my second favorite spend up on the slate behind Jokic, maybe third if those Boston guys don't play, boosting Tatum to 2.
Well, the beauty, you said a Jokic Wemby lineup is that you can really extract a lot of value out of this game to make that work. Jokic at 12-2 is not easy to get into any lineup and feel good about it. Now you add Wemby in there, and you're looking at, I need a lot of value. Well, the beautiful part is you get a lot of value out of this game. So
I don't think it's crazy to play Wemby, Jokic, Keldon, Champagny, Castle all in the same lineup because of how cheap their prices are.
No, and there's going to be even more value. We still have the Knicks stuff. We have our Sor Thompson we just talked about. You could take the shot on a Ty Jerome. We have the Dallas value. Like there's many ways that you can skin this cat. So I'm excited about this. Maybe not as excited as you because you lit up over there when we started talking about this game. But you're not wrong. There's a ton of different plays in this one. Castle, to me, one of, if not the best values on the slate. I mean, this kid just looks like the real deal, only going to continue to get better. I love the pick here for him to pair up with Wemby. Somehow still only 3,400. I know it was just the one big game recently, but he looks like the most mispriced guy when you are down here. So he's of interest. Champagne's of interest. The price on Vassell getting up there a little bit, but he's a guy that can put the ball in the basket. So like him here as well. Keldon's the one. I know the upside's there, but man, the range of possibilities with him very much up and down. I mean, he can get you under 10. The minutes could be under 20. We haven't seen it, a couple 30s in his game logs. He did hit 40 earlier this season, but he's the one I think is a little bit riskier they're all risky under 4,000, 5,000, but Keldon, the one I'm kind of holding off on the most out of these Spurs values.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Champagny, like, even though we're projecting Keldon for more minutes, I think those 20 minutes from Champagny are a little safer. And then Castle would be number one for me for sure. Champagny at the lower ownership than Keldon would come in too. I think I like all those values a bit better than Paul and Vassell, but I still think they're interesting. I think I might like Paul better though, considering Vassell is a guy who needs to score. And he's 6,200. Like, he's really got to go off to get there. Whereas Chris Paul can get there with assists or anyways. And he correlates better with Wemby. I think he correlates a lot better with both of those guys can go off because it can be Paul feeding him and Wemby just putting some dunks in. So love that one. I saw an interesting note today that Wemby is on pace to be the first person since Shaquille O'Neal to average 25 points and 3 blocks in a season. Only 4 people have done that ever, and all of them are in the Hall of Fame. So Wemby panning out as expected. He has been absolutely incredible, and I'm looking forward to playing him tonight. On the Denver side of things, we got the value. So Jokic is the top play on the slate, even though he's super expensive. We can get there. Jamal Murray has been playing so much better lately. They're saying they're letting Russell Westbrook go out there and carry the ball and run some cuts with Jokic, and so Murray doesn't have near as much of the offensive weight on his shoulders to make something happen if the ball's not in Jokic's hands, and he's played a lot better. And Russell Westbrook has hopped himself in or drank from, whatever you want to call it.
He hit the fountain of youth for sure.
Like 11 assists, 10 assists, 8 assists last 3 games, triple doubles in coming up again like this is 2020. So Russell Westbrook, even at 6'6", it feels weird, but he's in play. I think Christian Brown's in play And they've dropped the prices of Watson and Stroud there, where even though I don't think you need them, I don't think it's wrong to try it either.
Yeah, lots of ways to go here. And Westbrook's kind of one of, I keep waiting until he gets to about 7,000. I'm like, okay, that's probably as much as I want to spend on him, but he's back to triple-double Russell Westbrook. So I think 6,600 is too cheap. Jamal Murray, we've been getting a discount on. He's still under 8,000. Jokic, tough to get to, but his projection, I was looking at points, rebounds, and assists over at Shot Quality, just blows everyone out of the water. It's not even close. So 12-2, it may not even be high enough for what this guy can do. So this is the game. You nailed it. It's stackable. Make it happen. But even Michael Porter Jr., Christian Brown, I like a lot of pieces on this Denver side. I don't know that I'm going down to the Strathers of the world, but Watson's interesting. He's going to fill in for Gordon, play his mid-20s minutes. Not a ton of upside, but likely not going to kill you either.
DraftKings just gave me such a scare. I'm like stepping in for Steve on this one, producing it. And so I didn't I wasn't as prepped on the production side as typical, because wasn't the one that made the event. And I just got so scared because DraftKings sends me a notification that says your contest starts in less than an hour. Make sure you draft your lineups. And it's not less than an hour. It's an hour and 9 minutes. But I was like, does this lock at
right? Is this
at
6
30?
o'clock lock? And I missed it.
Did this start 30 minutes earlier than usual?
Yep.
Should I be alerting the crunch time crew? And I just had a little mini panic. But no, just DraftKings sending the alert a little early. J3 says we want Dean, and I agree. J3, we do want Dean, and we want to keep Dean in our thoughts right now, as I know he's dealing with a lot of family stuff, and so hopefully he'll be back next week. We don't know for sure, but we would definitely want to keep Dean and his family in our thoughts right now as he's handling some stuff from that front. I think it's time for, in honor of Dean being here, Film Friday, clue number 5. Nobody's gotten it yet through 4. Wow. If I'm being honest, I thought somebody was going to get it on 3 or 4.
Well, I'll say I have no idea. So you're doing a good job. Not that I'm the film expert, but no clue as of now.
Clue number 5, hot dog. Hot dog is clue number 5. So this fits the theme of the recent ones I've been doing lately. Fleet Thursday. I picked my first favorite football player ever. Fleet Thursday the week before, I picked my first favorite basketball player ever, Tracy McGrady, followed by LaDainian Tomlinson. Now, this was one of my first favorite movies as a tween, a preteen, a teen. I remember I always had and so I'm trying to give you some date hints here, people. I remember my room was still upstairs. My older sisters had just moved out of the house. And so I was waiting to take over their room downstairs, but I was still upstairs. And so on the weekends, when I didn't have school in the morning, I'd set out a nice mattress, bring out a lot of blankets and pillows, set myself up, play video games, and then fall asleep to movies. And so this was a movie that I had on DVD, and I would just watch it all the time because I thought it was absolutely hilarious. Still no one got it yet. So many people guessing dodgeball straight from the Wrench reference. Yeah. And they're on the right track, people. Wrench is referencing dodgeball. That is literally what I'm referencing for that one. So you're on the right track. Wrench, sandwich, bop, gossip, hot dog. I said this movie is hilarious. And it came out when I, as a 30-year-old, was in my early teens. So come on, guys. There it is. Oh, somebody got in the YouTube chat, but still, you got to get in the Discord chat if you want to win a free week of RotoGrinders Premium. So throw your guesses in the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. Somebody's got to be getting it here. We are so close. In the meantime, let's go over the DraftKings slate as a whole, and then we still have about 20 minutes till the crunch time crew comes in. So we will cover those last 2 games on FanDuel. But who would be your top spend up and your top salary saver for tournaments? So obviously, Jokic and Ausar Thompson are being hammered in cash with Castle for sure. But for tournaments, who would be your favorite spend up and your favorite salary saver?
I'm going to say Jason Tatum, as I think a lot of people are going to want to get up a little bit higher than him. Not to say that Jaylen Brown gets announced out. We won't see a spike in his ownership, but I really like the spot for Jason Tatum here tonight. So he will be my spend. As far as the value goes, I'm going to say Tobias Harris. If Thompson's going to be 50% owned and Tobias Harris is going to be about half of that, I'm not a big Tobias Harris fan. Let me put that out there. But if I can save half the ownership, spend a little bit more money, we can find enough value to make it work. I'm going to go Tobias Harris here.
All right. I like it. For me, it's Wemby as a spend up. Love the idea of going all the way up there. And then I'm going to steal from Steve Jones in the YouTube chat because that was such a great idea. I love the idea of playing the blowout angle in Cleveland and running some Ty Jerome at $3,300. We have had finally our winner after I gave an extra bonus clue quoting the movie in the YouTube chat, and Jay Peasy or in the Discord live stream Discord, and Jay Peasy was doing the exact same thing in the YouTube chats, and that was the "Ask Me About My Wiener,"
Fantastic.
Where Jonah Hill's iconic line from that movie. The movie is accepted. Shout out to T. Carter. You get 1 free week of RotoGrinders Premium. I'll try and get it for you for this weekend. But at bare minimum, it may not get here until next week just because Steve is out. Steve is the one who usually does this. I don't have access to get you the free week of RotoGrinders Premium, so I will try and get somebody else to do it. If not, Steve will get it right when he gets back from his family trip.
All right, we got lots of time here. We're going to cover the last 2 games. We're going to do we still got some time. So walk me through these clues because I've seen this movie. I enjoyed it. I thought it was hilarious as well, but it has been a while since I've seen this movie. So walk me through these clues and the people.
Yeah, so one of my favorite movies growing up, and Wrench is, like a lot of people were guessing, Dodgeball. That's what I was referencing because who was the person in Dodgeball when they said, if you dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Then they either throw the wrench, Patches O'Houlihan throws a wrench, hammers somebody. It's Justin Long, who is the main character in Accepted.
Okay.
Sandwich is because they start their college. It's the South Harmon Institute of Technology, SHIT, and their mascot are the Sandwiches. They are the shit sandwiches. That's their school team. Number 3 is Bop, because in the movie they're having their big party night, and the main character, Justin Long, I can't even remember what his name is in the Bartleby, gets on the microphone and he sings Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. Hey ho, let's go. And so Bop, clue number 3, is referencing Blitzkrieg Bop, which he sings on the show. LaMelo Ball is out, and so is Brandon Miller, so we will get back to that shortly. Number 4, Gossip, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this was Blake Lively's film debut. Where did she get very famous? It was Gossip Girl, and she started that show right after Accepted. And clue number 5, Hot Dog, because, of course, Jonah Hill is in the hot dog suit, yelling at people for them to ask him about his wiener.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you. Shout out to it was T. Carter who wins it, and I will hopefully try and get you that free week ASAP. If not, it'll be next week when Steve gets back here. Let's talk Charlotte and Detroit, because no LaMelo Ball, no Brandon Miller. Miles Bridges is now one of the best plays on the slate. Micic is back in the conversation as a salary saver. Maybe even somebody like a Seth Curry as well.
Yeah, Bridges moves up a ton. 7% usage bump without Ball and Miller on the floor this season. So that's just an absolutely massive leap. Like I mentioned, going back to Michigan, play a little narrative here as well. Now this matchup, not the cupcake matchup that it was in the past. Got to give the Pistons some credit for a much improved defense this season, but he's going to be the catalyst for this offense. So he's the guy that takes the big bump. Micic becomes interesting. I know you got a lot of haters in the chat. I understand it. There's better value out there for sure. That's one I'll probably keep the eye on the ownership. And Mark Williams still remains to me. It doesn't directly affect him, and maybe it hurts him a little bit without some of the facilitators there, but I still like him in this matchup with the Pistons. So What about some of the secondary? Seth Curry, I don't get overly excited about Seth Curry, but what do you think there?
So unless he's starting, probably not. But I do think he did play 33 minutes last game. But one thing that kind of slipped under the radar here is that Cody Martin is playing. Cody Martin is active, and he's been out the last few. So at 4,700, I think he may be the one stepping in, stealing Curry's minutes. If Martin's in the starting lineup, we're probably going to be projecting him for 30-plus minutes, assuming he's not limited in any way. And what was his injury here? Cody Martin, knee. Honestly, could be. But assuming Cody Martin's not limited, we get 30-plus minutes out of him. I think he's going to look really nice as a value at 4,700.
Yeah, that one interesting for sure. So, how far do they dip? Isaiah Wong, we've seen get some minutes. So Trey Mann's out as well. So it's just another guard that, the reason I like Micic is there's not a lot behind him. So 35 minutes last game, 1 of 13 shooting is just absolutely brutal. But he takes a bump, whether people like him in there or not. I think he gets a sizable bump here. The Wongs, the Simpsons of the world are definitely going to be involved, but probably not guys that I'm getting to. I just think there's much stronger value with guys like Castle, Thompson. If we get the value in New York, that I don't think you need to dip that far. And even the Ty Jerome call, the great call by the YouTube chat. I don't think we need to go to the secondary Charlotte point guards.
All right, let's talk some FanDuel. Still 2 more games left on the slate. Smash that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, if you tuned in late and joined, we will be here all the way up to lock with Kevin Roth, Taylor Smith, Tim Buell, all joining the show for crunch time here in about 10-15 minutes. Anthony Black has been ruled out, so potentially some ancillary pieces for Orlando getting a little bit nicer. But now that we have so much value on the slate, I don't really think we need to get there. So going over to YouTube, there was one question I wanted to hit before we cover those last 2 games, and that's, what do you think about Scotty Barnes in a FanDuel GPP, where he's not quite as expensive on FanDuel as he is on DraftKings?
We talked about him earlier. That game overall, not very exciting, but no RJ Barrett. I think he, the ceiling, the usage just goes up that much more, and ownership doesn't look crazy on him. So I do like that one, even in an ugly game.
Yeah. There you go. All right, let's talk the last 2 games on the slate. We have Memphis at Sacramento. Huge total in this one. On the Memphis side of things, Zach Edey is questionable. Brandon Clark is questionable. Jake LaRavia is questionable. John Morant is out. Really exciting slate on FanDuel where there are so many good games, because it's a good slate with tons of value on DraftKings. And Memphis, Sacramento, Atlanta Lakers, arguably the top 2 games on the slate. So really exciting slate over there. Who do you like on the Memphis side of things?
Yeah, I think there's some good value here. You take John Morant out of that lineup. Obviously, Jackson and Bane are definitely going to benefit here, but some of the other injuries as well that you mentioned, they're going to need to dip deeper in to the player pool. So Scottie Pippen, I think, runs that offense. 26-minute projection, which was a little bit higher, but he's certainly in play. Jalen Wells, another guy, should see a solid role here. So Bane is probably my favorite without John Morant, but I do like the value here with Pippen and Wells.
Wow, this is an interesting piece of news here, just because I just saw this, and since you brought up Michigan State and Miles Bridges earlier, I thought might as well bring it up. Former NBA, this is from an ESPN analyst, unless it's not real, because it says ESPN in their name, and then I don't actually see it in their bio. But I'm seeing somebody say that they're going to be giving Magic Johnson is going to be providing Michigan State with a whole bunch of NIL money to try and compete for championships here in the near future. So I don't actually know if that was real or not. It just kind of distracted me and the ADHD took over, but that would be a fun little piece of a little college basketball information.
He certainly got the money. We've seen Michigan start to pony up. Dave Portnoy and more for the football team, but they're direct competitors, and Michigan State doesn't want to be left behind. So I could see that.
Yeah, dude's got if I'm not mistaken, dude's got dozens of Starbucks chains too. So he's just
he's got his hands in everything.
He's got his
part owner of the Washington Commanders, the LA Dodgers. He's got a little bit of everything going on.
All right, Memphis side of things, Zach, if Edey, Clark, and LaRavia are out, they're really, really undermanned at big man. They're going to be forced to play Jay Huff some minutes. They never really want to play Jay Huff some minutes, but he's a good point per minute guy. He could be someone that ends up being a strong value here because Jaren Jackson Jr. could end up being the only other big man that they have left on that roster. So another reason to maybe avoid those early games or only play one player from those early games just so that you can load up on some potential news that could be hitting here later. On the Sacramento side, mostly healthy for Sacramento, but they are missing Keegan Murray. Keon Ellis stepped into the starting lineup last game and had a really good game in 37 minutes. He's projecting as mega chalk on FanDuel, maybe a little less so, since more value has opened up throughout the day. But still, Keon Ellis 4,100 likely to be pretty highly owned.
Yeah, I do like him. He's one of those guys, cash games, you throw him in, you move on, save yourself some money, tournaments, keep an eye on the ownership. But like you mentioned, with all the value that could potentially open up, maybe that number drops a little bit here. So I love Sabonis in this spot. We mentioned the lack of bigs and size for this team. Sure, Jaren Jackson Jr., a great defender, but I think Sabonis and Fox are guys that little bit underpriced on FanDuel. I know they're up there in the nines, but Sabonis to me a $10,000 player. So if other people are going to garner ownership in that pricing range, I think he's very, very interesting here tonight. Malik Monk been playing some great basketball, probably underpriced here still. So you don't have to go to Ellis. There are other values here. You could stick with the same team and roll with a Lyles or a Herter in that same price point.
I think I got to assume this ownership for Malik Monk is going to come down a little bit. Like he's not going to be near 50%. Does he?
Seems high.
Yeah,
I think he's underpriced. It certainly stands out, like the old sore thumb. But I don't know that he's going to be upwards of 50% owned.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Atlanta and LA last game of the night. About 5-10 minutes before the crunch time crew joins in here. Another reason that we want to wait for late news. Backload that lineup because this Atlanta game, it's got a lot of news we're waiting on. Anthony Davis and LeBron James both going to play after each of them had missed a few games lately. But on the Atlanta side, Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, Bogdanovich, all listed as questionable.
Brutal. This is one you're going to have to kind of plan ahead. And, I would love to play either of those guys in this one. So we can walk through both scenarios, if they're in or they're out here. If they're in, I think they're both great plays here tonight. I probably prefer Johnson a little bit more and that $500 savings. If they're out, really opens the floodgates. If they're both out, my goodness. Atlanta's going to be – Daniel's going to be running the point. Hunter's going to have to become a primary scorer here. You could dip into Matthews likely in the starting lineup again. Riche probably plays a much bigger role. So, you're going to have to on one of them nights. Some people love to play NBA TJ. They want to set it. They want to go to dinner. They want to go to the movies. This is not that night for you. If you're going to have to be plugged in until the end if you're playing on FanDuel here tonight. So great value here with the Hawks. Even if one of those guys is out, I love these plays in the mid-range, Hunter and Daniels. If they're both out, then you really start dipping in and finding some value here with the Hawks against this Lakers defense.
Yeah, like you look at Daniels and Hunter's projections here, and they look decent for their prices with everybody in around them.
Right.
So they're just going to absolutely pop. If 1, 2, 3 of these guys get ruled out, it's going to be pretty darn crazy. Capella and Okongwu both, I think, are somewhat interesting. I'd probably rather go Okongwu if we're getting like Jalen Johnson, Bogdanovich, Young out because the likelihood of this one staying close I think gets smaller and smaller, and then maybe Okongwu would be the one who picks up a few more minutes. But they're going to have one of those guys on the court for the full 48 minutes with Anthony Davis out there, you'd think. Risa Shea, if we get Bogdanovich and or Jalen Johnson out, I think gets a little bit better here as well. So really potential for a lot of value, and especially in the mid-range for the Atlanta side today. On LA, Austin Reeves has been absolutely balling lately, but now we have LeBron and Anthony Davis both back in the lineup. That makes me feel pretty comfortable saying definitely not going to get to Hachimura, Connect, Christie, any of those guys. Reeves, maybe still, just because he's been so damn good. But on a slate this big, I feel like it would just be AD or LeBron for me.
Yeah, that 8,000 is like it feels like the cap for where he should be. Like, do you really want to spend 8,000 on Austin Reeves? He has been playing well, but like you mentioned, with guys in and out of that lineup, it's become a little bit easier. I love his game. This 8,000 feels a little bit much. It feels more like a low sevens, mid sevens, even. So we're kind of buying at the ceiling here with Austin Reeves.
Yeah, that is the exact same page for me as well. That'll do it for the 9-game slate. Crunch Time crew should be in here any minute. Let's see how many likes we are at here. We are up to 68, so not enough for our slate breaking play today. Let's get one more push. We got tons of people watching here. Should be no issue to get us up over 100 likes. So smash that like button. It's real easy to do, and it helps us. All you got to do, take your mouse. Here it is. I just knocked mine over, and it still works. Take it, slide it over, click the like button. If you're watching on your phone, a few extra steps. I apologize, but I'll show you how to do it. You go, you take your little phone here. You find YouTube. I got to actually find YouTube. Go to YouTube. Find RotoGrinders where you're watching it. Bang. There we are, right at the top. Found us. Now quick hide chat. You see how the chat is blocking the like button? You got to hide it. Then you hit the like button. And that got us 30 right there. We are already up over 100. Great job, chat. You guys are awesome. Who is breaking the slate today, Beer?
I'm going to stick with Jason Tatum. Even in a tougher matchup, I think there's going to be much more appealing spots, higher totals people are going to chase. I think Tatum's a guy that can give you 70 here tonight and likely doesn't see a ton of ownership. Give me Jason Tatum as my slate breaking play tonight.
That's a great call there. Eric Johnson in chat asking if Tatum is going to be chalk, and no, I don't think so, because we have so many great plays today. So I like the Tatum call quite a bit. I'm going to go Victor Wembanyama is the guy breaking the slate today. I love the idea of pairing him with Jokic. I think we got enough. We got more than enough value to be able to pay for the double super expensive guys together in this one.
Yeah, love that call. And anytime Wemby's not going to be owned, we know the guy has, you could say, a legit 100-point upside. So a premier showdown with Jokic, he should be able to do his thing out there. So that game in general, very stackable. Love the Wemby call here.
Jorge Manzo in chat saying your explanation made it happen. With how many people hit the like button that fast, I can't actually help but wonder the live tutorial on YouTube hiding the chats.
Yeah,
I can't actually.
I'm trying to hit it. Where is it? So
yeah, like that. I think that actually might have worked here a little bit to get us a few extra. What do you think what's the situation or player that you're most worried about not getting to? Like how many lineups you playing tonight?
Probably about 10 to 12, not the 150 guy that you are, but try to keep it a narrower core. The biggest situation, obviously, is the Atlanta situation to me. You know, that's such a big nugget of news is not only Trae Young, but it's also Jalen Johnson. Do we get one? Do we get both? Do we get none? And how that affects your builds for tonight. You're going to want exposure. Any game 230, like that game with limited defense, you definitely want to look ahead, work ahead, try to build those lineups as if one of those guys is out, both guys are out, and then you're ready. You're not scrambling if that news happens to come late.
Couldn't agree more. I am that's definitely a strong strategy for tonight. I am worried with the 150 of like not being able to adapt properly, because it is hard if you just have one rule in there that you don't realize you have in lineup HQ and you're trying to do the rebuild and the late swap and it doesn't let you get there. It works phenomenally if you have it all set up right. But every now and then when you're playing a ton of lineups, there's a rule that you don't realize you have, and it just keeps everything back from you getting where you want to get to. But I still think there's a lot of money to be made tonight by getting underweight on these first two games and loading up on what we have later. We're still waiting for Boston news. We're still waiting for New York news. I kind of thought we would have the Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, maybe not Jalen Brunson, but at least Brown and Porzingis by now.
Yeah, a little surprised we haven't heard yet. So crunch time, we'll be able to hook you guys up with that news. But the longer the news takes on Jaylen Brown, the better for my Tatum call. So I'm not too upset. I like Tatum regardless. If Brown's out, love him.
Very true. Good point there. We got the Crunch Time crew ready to go. Kevin Roth, Tim Buell, Mr. Bojangles himself, Taylor Smith. Crunch Time. Joining us now. Roth wasn't actually at his computer yet when I said Crunch Time is on now, and so now I'm just bringing him in here when he can't hear us. So if you have anything bad to say about Roth, get it out now before his headphones get in there.
Who could ever have a bad word to say about Kevin Roth?
Plenty of people on Twitter.
Here. Oh, come on. Don't worry about them haters, Roth.
Whew. Hey, guys.
Certainly no one has anything bad to say to you outside of baseball season.
That's true. Yeah, it's very rare. Baseball season, you get some heat, but it's the off season, baby.
Shiver me Timbo, my guy Tim Buell here. How you doing, Tim? Oh, and we're starting the day with the mic not working yet. I think he knows he's muted. It's not.
Oh, there we go. Here we go.
There it is.
What's going on? TJ? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Ready to set the tone with you this weekend with a bunch of shows. I believe we got a maybe triple T NBA show coming up this weekend if I look at the schedule right. So got on every single RotoGrinders show, either in front of the camera or behind the camera, between today and Wednesday. So
I gotta say that was a great explanation how to use your phone for YouTube likes.
Thank you. I actually am
shocked. He got about 40 likes in about 10 seconds.
Yeah,
so
that was really well done.
How well that worked, and just like immediately after, a bunch of people who's like, they don't comment all that often in the YouTube chat. I was seeing for the first time, so got a bunch of new names in there that got me excited. So
you weren't even that condescending about it either. Like if Roth had done that, he would have been very condescending.
Let me ask Roth. I'm seeing some tipsy Roths in the comments here. So I was unable to catch the show yesterday. What'd I miss?
No, yesterday I was sober. It was New Year's Day where somebody decided to hand me a bunch of whiskey, and it went downhill from there, or it got good from there, depending on your perspective.
Awesome.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It may have been if you had to build some lineups and provide like some sharp analysis, it may not have gone super well. But the fact that you were just passing it back and forth between the two analysts, it made the show genuinely better because it was hilarious.
Yeah, I think somebody said we need that once a week, and I agree. I'm in. All right, I'm in on that.
Whiskey Wednesdays, Roth.
Yep,
there you go.
Let's do it.
Fred wants to know in chat, Roth, what's the forecast for tonight? Whiskey with a share of Wemby for 60. Is that in the cards for tonight?
I think 70. So yeah, I'm on board.
Damn.
All right. Well, Beer, you got anything else before we get out of here and give way to the Crunch Time crew?
No, we'll turn it over to the crew here. Appreciate the chat, your questions, your involvement, and that rush of thumbs up at the end was incredible. So, no, good luck to everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time.
Couldn't agree more. Roth, all yours.
Good stuff. TJ, Beer, couple fantastic content providers, and now we dive into it. It is a familiar face. Tim and I believe, have worked together every day of 2025. How lucky can a man get? What's up, Tim?
I know. This is the most sober I've ever seen you this year. This is impressive work on your part. I'm proud of you. This is the first step, Kev. This is the first step, Kevin. Yeah.
We'll get there. It's a long year, and we're just gradually working our way towards improvement. We got Taylor in the house as well. What up, Taylor? How are you?
Doing well. I was worried I was on mute again, but luckily not this time. It's kind of a crazy slate. About 1 million games on FanDuel, a couple less than that on DK, and still some news we are waiting on. So we'll see what happens, Kevin.
Taylor, you look rich. I don't know how else to say it other than that when I look at you, you look like you have millions of dollars. Is that true?
Maybe.
That's the right answer.
Doesn't Taylor look like a guy who smokes a pipe? Not like just like one of those old
I did see a guy walking down the street like 2 days ago, just lighting up a pipe like he was straight out of 1916. I thought that was
could be you.
Funny.
Yeah, could be you.
Could have been me.
Taylor's got old money vibes. And then Tim's got we're gonna hang out and drink a beer and talk about hockey vibes. That's what he's got. And I think that is accurate, right, Tim?
I don't drink beer, but we can drink alcohol, the hard stuff, and definitely watch hockey.
Yeah, definitely the hockey part. That's a lock.
Yeah, that's a lock.
We're here to discuss some hoops, some NBA action that we got going down tonight. Lock is in 40 minutes. The people need the winners, they need the plays, and I need the rundown on what has been going on all day long. Tim, you get to give me the general rundown, and then Taylor, you can lead us off at the old point guard spot on FanDuel.
Okay, so FanDuel's a 9-game slate, and DK is a 7:00 slate. We have a lot of news that we're waiting on for both slates, but we really have a lot of news waiting on that FanDuel slate because we still have no clue what Memphis is doing. They got a ton of guys that are questionable. We have some questionable guys for Atlanta. So there's a lot of late news that we do not have yet. So right now I'm trying to backload as best that I can for FanDuel. On DK, we lose those 10 o'clock, those 2 10 o'clock games. So we don't have to worry about that. But we do still have some news, like, we have some Knicks news. We have some Boston news that is pretty important because we have Porzingis and Brown that are still questionable. So that's pretty massive. Yeah. So that could end up opening up some value. We already have gotten some news that's really important. Like we got Ball and Miller out for Charlotte. So that's pretty important right there. But at least that's
Ari Smith Jr. out for Houston because he's out 4 to 8 weeks after fracturing his hand during their shoot around.
So, and then we also have Eason out, right? Didn't we just get that news? Yeah. So that could end up being another
suspended.
Oh, I forgot. Almond still.
Yeah. Suspended. So Cam, it's going to be another Cam Whitmore night. It looks like.
Is there like a powerful, like someone who would play Jabari's role that's going to step up and get some extra minutes, Tim?
Maybe they dust off Jason Tate.
Yeah.
I guess.
Gross.
Yeah. Okay. Not like a permanent dog.
I wonder who we're gonna project in the starting lineup to replace Smith. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I would guess that it would be Tate, but it could also be Whitmore.
Jeff
Whitmore. Yeah, that's true.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Whitmore was already projecting pretty well, so his projection is going to go up quite a bit, I would imagine now. So he's going to be a pretty strong value play. We'll see what the projections team says about that.
Okay, good stuff. Well, let's dive into it. I have 3% battery, and I do not have a phone charger, so I need to build a team on my phone with 3% battery. So we need the goods, and we need them efficiently. Taylor, what are we doing at point guard on FanDuel? What do you like, homie?
Yeah, so obviously a lot more to consider on FanDuel with those late games. Like Trae Young is questionable. We have AD on this slate. Like there's a lot that can change on FanDuel. Point guard is kind of set though. Like you're not looking for a lot of news there beyond Trae Young maybe. But as of now, I think Cade Cunningham is probably the best play here at 9-7. No Jaden Ivey. They're playing Charlotte. Charlotte shorthanded. I just think he's a fantastic play in all formats, on all sites. I'll be playing him a lot, even though he's one of the earliest games. A guy in tournaments I think is really interesting is Emmanuel Quickly. He's underpriced. He's under 7K on both sites. Should be close to full minutes after missing quite a bit of time. I think it was an elbow injury. The matchup against Orlando is not very good, but I think he could be like an 8K player without RJ Barrett, and he's just not. So in tournaments, I am going to be loading up on him quite a bit. The Pelicans look good on this slate, facing off against the Wizards, so we always want to stream guys against Washington. Murray and McCollum are going to be outstanding plays tonight too. I prefer Murray between the two, but no problem with either of them. I think Poole on the other side of that game on FanDuel under 8K is pretty interesting as well. And on the value front, Steph Castle is a better value on DK, but still on FanDuel with Sohan out. 4-4 is pretty good for him. Who was the other? Keon Ellis is 4-1. Keegan Murray is unlikely to play for Sacramento. Shooting guard, point guard eligibility, so that comes in handy over here. I think he's a pretty good value on FanDuel as well.
Okay, good stuff. I think that takes us to Tim. Your thoughts at point. And by the way, I love that Quickly call for what it's worth. Just looking, I think that is a brilliant call. Tim, your thoughts?
I also like that quickly call. That's very, very sharp. I do like him quite a bit as well. DeJounte Murray is my favorite overall point guard, 8,400. Like Taylor said, we want to stream against Washington as much as we can. I think that price is really favorable. Since we got this Dallas news with no Kyrie, Dinwiddie at 5,800, it's a really bad spot for Dallas, but Dinwiddie's still pretty darn affordable. So I think 5,800 is completely fine. I'm kind of conflicted what I want to do with Cade Cunningham. I think he's a fantastic play. He's just in one of the first games of the night. So you're taking up a ton of salary, and you lose a lot of flexibility with your roster if you roster Cade. But he's also a really strong play. So it's kind of up in the air, like what you want to do. If you want to just lock in that early spot, I have absolutely no issue with that whatsoever. Because the matchup is fantastic. The price is decent. He's showing up as a very solid RG value right now. So I think it's okay if you want to play him. I think I'm leaning on fading him because I just want to wait for some more news, but that could end up really, really hurting. So that's really up to your own individual risk tolerance. Taylor's right. Stefan Castle is probably the best value guy on the entire slate. I think he's better utilized in your shooting guard spot. Vasilij Micic now is a pretty strong value with no Ball or Miller. But if you're looking to go down, I prefer Castle over Micic, straight up.
Man, these guard spots are filling up quick. There's a lot of good players I want there, and not enough slots for all of them.
Right.
Give me the shooting guard, Tim.
Sure. So Castle's definitely the guy you're playing in cash games. He's definitely your cash game shooting guard, one of your cash game shooting guards. And then I think the next spot is kind of up in the air. That's, if you want to play Asar Thompson at shooting guard, you can, but he's also small forward eligible because you are going to be playing Asar Thompson in cash games. He's very, very cheap, 4,600. Good matchup, like I mentioned. I think, Malik Monk, 6,400. I think he's a really solid play. Trey Murphy, going to play big minutes against Washington. We know that we want to stream against Washington, so I do like Trey Murphy quite a bit. Taylor mentioned Keon Ellis at point guard. I think he could be a viable option if you wanted to double punt the shooting guard position and go like Ellis and Castle or something like that. I think that's okay. Desmond Bane is he is not questionable. He's almost certainly going to play. I think Desmond Bane is a really excellent GPP play.
Taylor, your thoughts at shooting guard?
Yeah, most of the same stuff. Asar, you can play quickly here. Trey Murphy, someone I'm getting a lot of, guard forward eligible. We love the Pelicans against the Wizards tonight. Jalen Suggs, I didn't mention at point guard. I probably should have, but their matchup against Toronto is awesome. The game has a tight spread. He's been very good without the Wagners and Banchero. So I think he's a pretty strong play. Like the Bane call, Jordan Poole here as well. Devin Vassell, 6K, still starting for San Antonio. No Sohan. Pretty good matchup against Denver. That game has a high total. A lot of value on the San Antonio side, especially on DK, but Vassell on FanDuel looks good as well. And then I didn't mention Brogdon at point guard, but he's also fine at shooting guard. Washington without Bilal Coulibaly. And then we have that late game, Atlanta and LA, with news on both sides. Last night we were playing Austin Reeves everywhere without Anthony Davis. We don't know if Anthony Davis is going to play tonight. Austin Reeves is 8K, so it's kind of a lot, but he's just been very good for quite a while now, especially without
Jaylen Brown is out. Porzingis is in.
Okay. I guess that'll make Derek White look better,
yeah.
But the matchup against Houston is better with Amen Thompson out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's okay. Derek White's not the priority that he was last night for me, I don't think, but he's a guy that gets a boost for sure.
Looking at Asar Thompson, are we just expecting mid-20s minutes? Like last game, he sort of got there only because he had 5 steals. Do we need that again? Because the dude doesn't really shoot.
He's a good defender, and on FanDuel in particular, that's pretty useful with the 3 points. But without Ivy and Fontecchio, like the minutes should come up. expecting him to start. If he doesn't start, I'll feel a little bit worse about it, but he's just cheap with good eligibility, so that's pretty much all it is. And the matchup's a good one too.
Okay, all of that is very fair. All right, take me to small forward, Taylor.
Yeah, let's see. So Thompson, you can play here also. We mentioned Charlotte is without LaMelo Ball, without Brandon Miller. Miles Bridges is priced up, but good matchup for them against the Pistons. He's going to really be the hub of that offense, so I don't mind that. I mentioned Trey Murphy at shooting guard, Desmond Bane as well. LeBron will get a big boost again if AD's out. 9.6 on FanDuel is pretty cheap for him regardless. And then Reeves, you can also play at small forward over here. Tatum will get a big boost as well without Jaylen Brown now. Porzingis being back might hurt him a little bit, but don't think Porzingis is going to see full run. So Tatum's okay. I'm not sure I love him given the matchup, but he's fine as well.
Tim, your thoughts at small forward?
Miles Bridges, I think, is the top overall play. He's small forward, power forward eligible. No Ball, no Miller. Bridges is going to have to really, get a pretty big usage bump there without those two on the court. Asar Thompson, we already talked about. Cam Whitmore's projection just got updated. We gave him 26 minutes. He's a very, very, very strong points per dollar play. So, I mean, I think Whitmore can be utilized at 4,400. He's small forward only. I think Keldon Johnson is an okay value. I really like the Spurs Denver game. So getting to cheap pieces of that game, I think, is very viable in single entry or large field GPPs. Herb Jones at 5,900. Again, streaming against Washington. I like Herb Jones quite a bit. I think that really would do it. In terms, we talked about Tatum's going to get a bump, a pretty big one probably. So I think I would prefer him to any of the super spend ups at the forward spots, other than Wemby, which we'll talk about next.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go to power forward. What are you doing there, Tim? Wemby.
So power forward's a little bit more complicated on FanDuel than it is on DK because we have Jaren Jackson on FanDuel at 8,500. Noto correctly has given him a core play tag because Memphis is missing so much of their interior players, and they may be missing even more. We don't know yet. So Jaren Jackson's already rating out as a super strong play. We've already talked about Miles Bridges. Ooh. Thompson is not starting, Taylor.
Yeah. Wendell Moore is starting.
Wendell Moore. All right. Yeah.
Whoever that is.
Yeah. So we talked about Bridges, talked about Jackson. I think Sabonis is a reasonable play, but I mean, I really want to get up to Wemby. We'll talk about centers in a second, but Jokic is 13,000 on FanDuel. Wemby at 11,800. If there was one guy that I wanted to spend high salary on, it'd probably be Wemby. The scoring fits him better on FanDuel also, and he gets power forward eligibility. So we could play him at power forward or center. So 11,800, I think he's an absolutely fantastic play. Even with all this value coming up, I think he is not going to be that chalky either. So I really like him as my top overall spend up option. I think we have talked about any of the other options. Oh, I guess Jalen Johnson, if he plays, he's got a Q tag right now. If he plays, I think he is in a really good spot against the Lakers at 9K. So I don't mind him as a spend up option. In terms of power forward, though, there really isn't a super cheap one other than Keldon Johnson that I would consider rostering.
Tim, you mentioned Jalen Johnson with the Q tag and liking him if he plays. If he's out, is there someone that gets a huge bump that you then want?
Trae Young, probably, but also DeAndre Hunter. He's coming off the bench and he plays big minutes, so I wouldn't mind getting to some DeAndre Hunter if Johnson were to miss.
Okay, good stuff. Taylor, power forward.
Yeah, I think the Wemby call is a good one just because it's kind of an ugly position. There could be more value popping up later, like Jalen Johnson and Anthony Davis and stuff being questionable. But as of now, it's guys like Miles Bridges, Wemby, LeBron's still playable, even if Anthony Davis is in, of course. Herb Jones, like Tim said, decent value, good matchup. Goga is someone I have a lot of on FanDuel. I think it's a power forward eligibility. He's been very good. The matchup against Toronto is also very good for bigs. I'm just a little bit concerned about locking up that spot early. But if you're not concerned about waiting on news, I think Goga's a pretty good play on FanDuel. And then it's guys like Sabonis, Keldon Johnson, decent value. Tobias Harris, maybe a little bit better on DK. But yeah, it's kind of gross once you get past Wemby and like LeBron.
Okay, let's go to the centers, Taylor.
So like Tim said, Jokic is wildly expensive. Obviously, if you can get to him, outstanding. But if not, there are plenty of alternatives. Wemby, of course, is one of them. Goga as well. Mark Williams is someone that's pretty interesting. Minutes have been coming up for him. He's been excellent per minute since he got back from his own injury. The matchup against Detroit is not one to avoid. He's another guy who's a better value on DK, but I still think he's a pretty strong option on FanDuel given the minutes he's playing lately. Valanciunas off the bench against New Orleans. New Orleans doesn't protect the rim. Valanciunas just does it all per minute when he's out there. Even 20 minutes is okay enough for him. In tournaments, guys like Hartenstein, Sabonis, of course, Yves Missi, 6K flat is okay. But I think Mark Williams, dollar for dollar, might be my favorite one here.
Very good. Jack in the YouTube chat echoing that. At the same time you said it, he typed in Mark Williams. So y'all are in agreement. Tim, your thoughts at the center spot on FanDuel?
Yeah, I was definitely all over Mark Williams on both sites, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to lock up an early spot or not. So currently I'm not playing him, but it's pretty close. I may change really quick. Again, you can also play Wendell Carter at 5,100. He should play around 30 minutes. Good spot against Toronto. Pretty cheap also. So I don't mind him. I mean, what can I say about Jokic? Like, yes, obviously you could play him. We do have the value to do it. It is a little bit tough. He can easily beat that price tag. I prefer spending it for Wemby. So I'm probably going to be playing Wemby in the power forward spot. That will leave me with either like Williams or Carter, or I think Missi is a pretty decent value. I think Jalen Duren is interesting for GPPs. Alperen Şengün, I always like quite a bit. He's going to go pretty low owned this evening. So it's probably going to be somebody in that 6 to 9K range that I end up choosing on FanDuel. But I mean, Mark Williams is the best RG value. So if you don't care about taking up that early roster spot, I say go for it and play Mark Williams.
Okay. I want to kick it over to DK before we do so. The holiday season still ongoing to some degree, bringing us some big DFS contests, NBA, NFL. And if you want to have a massive takedown, we're trying to help you out. We're taking $10 off your first month of Combo Lite, which means access to our SimLabs lineup building tool and content from some of your favorite DFS analysts. Just $19.99. Not for a day, not for a week, but for a whole month. $19.99. That blows my mind. Just seems wildly cheap. So make sure you're taking advantage of that offer while we've got it. Shaquille says it's going to be a 400-point night on FanDuel if you want to take it down. Is it one of those, Tim, where you just need massive scores?
I don't know about 400, but I think, somewhere in the 370 to 380.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
These nights always piss me off because I drop like 340 and I'm like, yeah, must be crushing. And then I barely bubble cash. Like,
there isn't like any, like, I don't think there's like any like super smash cheap value. So usually those nights are where you can like double pay up for like double studs, Yeah. And then it ends up being that 400 point kind of night.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, let's kick it over to what we're doing at DK. And Tim, you actually get to lead us off in the DK side of things.
Yeah, so pretty similar. I think DeJounte Murray at 8,700 is probably my favorite point guard. Cade Cunningham has the strongest RG value, but I've already talked about it. I don't really want to waste a early roster spot. He is 9.9 on DK. Completely fine if you want to roster him. I'm pivoting down to DeJounte Murray as I spend up point guard. Spencer Dinwiddie at 6'6". Again, not a good matchup, but I think he's just going to have to try and do everything so he can pay off this price tag and beat it. I think even against the Cavs. Emmanuel quickly at 6,900. Point guard Westbrook at 6'6", I think is okay in GPPs. I think for a spend down option would be Vasily Micic. And then, of course, we still have Stephon Castle, but on DK also, he's better served in the shooting guard spot.
Okay, Taylor, I'm not saving these roster spots for later. Like, I want Miles Bridges, I want Cade Cunningham. Is it okay to just lock these dudes in? Because I think they're fantastic plays.
Yeah, on DK, where we don't have the late games, you don't have to worry about Trae Young and Anthony Davis and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's a lot more viable on DK, where we already have most of the news.
Gotcha. All right, what are we doing at point guard?
So, Cade, like we said on FanDuel, just an awesome play over here without Jaden Ivey. Steph Castle, 3-4, just super cheap for the role. Could start without Sohan for San Antonio. It's a lot of the same guys. Quickly, Suggs, DeJounte Murray, Derek White, like we said, looks a lot better now without Jaylen Brown and without Al Horford. Jordan Poole, I think Bub Carrington is an okay kind of low-owned punt, under 5K. No Coulibaly. I don't mind that. Russell Westbrook has been starting of late. He's 6,600 with Jokic in, so it's a little bit of a steep price tag for him, but he just got a triple-double, I think, 2 games ago. Still has that upside. It's kind of what he does. So no qualms with that. Drew Holiday gets a little bit of a boost without Brown. I'm a little concerned that he played 1 million minutes yesterday, but he's only 5'1". I think you can take a shot on that too. I prefer him to Micic if we're talking point guards in that range.
Okay, and Doug says, does Coulibaly's injury make anyone viable on Washington on DK? And that's where you mentioned Carrington, correct?
Yeah, I think he and Brogdon look better without Coulibaly. Brogdon's a fine play as well.
The other night, we were in a similar spot, and so I think it was Tim, when I asked, who can we play, mentioned Brogdon, and I was like, not doing it, not playing that guy, and he absolutely smashed. So noted, next time I will listen, and he is a good play. Shooting guard, what are you doing there, Taylor?
Let's see. So Castle, again, you can play here as well. Derek White also. Jalen Green makes me a little bit nervous, but he does get a big boost without Jabari, without Amen, without Tari Eason. Don't love the matchup, but I think he's cheap enough to take some shots on. Devin Vassell, kind of in the same range, similar play with forward eligibility. Trey Murphy, mentioned loving him on FanDuel, love him on DK also. Julian Champagny is an okay punt at 3.9 without Sohan. If you're kind of managing your Spurs wings risk. There are a lot of interchangeable pieces they have. So I don't think I'd want to play like 1 million of these guys together, but Champagny on his own is okay. And then Carrington as well, CJ McCollum, guys like that. That probably does it. Like, there are plenty of options, but I think we've run through the top ones already.
Okay, Tim, shooting guard.
Yeah, Castle's definitely your cash game option. We've gone over him quite a bit. Derek White, I think, is a very strong play. CJ McCollum, I think, is a good tournament play. Trey Murphy at 7,300, I think, is a really solid play as well. I don't know. Shooting guard seems kind of weak. Devin Vassell, I think, is okay at 6,200. I think nobody's going to be playing the Cavaliers, really. So Donovan Mitchell, I think, is a very, very strong contrarian spend-up option, 8,400. I think that's really it. I don't want to just name names because it's pretty gross down at the bottom here of shooting guard. So I would just concentrate on some of these top options at shooting guard and try to get more creative somewhere else.
Okay. Take me to small forward, Tim.
Yeah, so Tatum got a really big projection upgrade. He's the top RG value on DK. He's 10-2. No Jaylen Brown. We know what he can do, So I think he's a really, really strong play. Sar Thompson, I think, got a fairly decent downgrade in minutes. I think we were what did we have him projected before, Taylor? Like 28?
26 or 28, yeah.
Okay, so now he's down to 23. So I mean, he's still rating okay. But he is now actually a negative RG value. So I mean, it's not great, but he's still only 4K though. So I don't mind him, but I mean, he has been downgraded. I would rather pivot to Cam Whitmore at 3,900, I think. But it's pretty close between those two. I think I would roster Whitmore.
It's not close. It's not close. Cam Whitmore is going to smoke. Cam Whitmore is going to drop 40 freaking fantasy points, and Asar Thompson ain't doing that shit.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. The only issue is that it's Boston. If it was anyone else but Boston, that's like the only thing that I'm like a little bit worried about. But I mean, I think I am going to pivot my Thompsons to Cam Whitmore now. So yeah, I think Whitmore is like the best value, but I also like Keldon Johnson too. I think he's a really solid value play in my favorite game of the night. So I don't mind Keldon. And then I also
don't get it updated before lock, Tim. What would be your best guess of what Asar Thompson's ownership comes in at now that he's not starting?
Yeah, I mean, so it was like projected for 44%, probably goes down to like 25, I'd say.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's just a guess. That's just a guess.
Yeah, I'm just loading up on all the value and still playing him, but I feel a lot better about Cam Whitmore than I do that guy.
I kind of do too. I think I feel better about Keldon Johnson also. Your former best friend.
Yeah.
So
my former boy, big body.
Yeah. I also like Herb Jones quite a bit too at 5,300. I think he might get squeezed in ownership. So I also don't mind him at 53. He should play mid-30s minutes against Washington, which is fantastic. So I really do like him in GPPs.
Okay. Taylor, I want your thoughts at small forward. I did see David say Seth Curry is the best value. Is Seth Curry viable? Because I love that guy. And if he's viable, I want to play him.
Is he ever viable? I'm not sure. I don't think I agree with that take that he's the best value. That's Seth Curry can get you one. So
okay, that's probably not going to do it. Yeah, probably not going to do it. All right. What are we doing in small forward?
Yeah, so Cam Whitmore is probably the best play here now, dollar for dollar, the matchup being what it is. But, they have so many injuries / suspended guys that he has to play. He's already been playing a bit. Good per minute. I'm fine with it, just given how cheap he is. I think you can make a similar case for Jae'Sean Tate. Speaking of guys who can get you one, but he's not quite as bad as Seth Curry per minute. He's only 3-1. He's power forward, small forward eligible. I'm getting him quite a bit, which is making me nervous, but like he and Whitmore are so cheap that I feel like it's okay to play them together if you want to. Otherwise, a lot of the same guys we've already mentioned, Vassell, Trey Murphy, Sam Hauser looks better now without Jaylen Brown. Should start. Decent run for him. Dean Wade, like as a pure pivot, straight line pivot from guys like Whitmore and Keldon, I think is okay. Similar to Hauser. Tatum at the high end looks good. Dylan Brooks looks a little bit better now also. Probably don't want more than 2 of those small forward rockets together, but they're all cheap, so it's fine. And yeah, that probably does it. Not much else on DK.
Okay, power forward.
So Whitmore and Tate also viable here. Ditto for Hauser and Tatum and Keldon and Dean Wade. Tobias Harris, I mentioned being a better play on DK than FanDuel, 4.9. Pretty good value without Jaden Ivey. Asar Thompson, less so now, especially if people aren't going to get away from it. Miles Bridges, we talked about on FanDuel, looking pretty good. And then maybe a dusting of Jalen Williams, but nothing outstanding.
I was curious about what you just mentioned, and that's like, what is Asar's ownership going to come? We've got him projected at 45%. I think that's when we expected he would be starting. Am I paying for a dude who doesn't shoot and is coming in at 40% owned, or do you think that's going to tank now, Taylor?
I don't think he'll be that owned, but he's, maybe people don't see the news. It's the first game of the night.
Yeah.
It's probably still going to be outsized. So if you want to fade him entirely, I don't think that's a bad play.
Yeah. All right. Sticking with it. But all right, take me to Tim, your thoughts of power forward, please.
Yeah, so power forward's kind of an interesting position. Miles Bridges should be in your cash game core. He's 7,700. He's going to be pretty highly owned, but I think he's pretty good chalk. Jason Tatum at 10-2, fantastic play. I think Tobias Harris, Taylor mentioned on FanDuel, Also like him on DK as like a contrarian value play. Whitmore is rating out stronger than Thompson, so I think Whitmore is completely fine. I think Jason Tate, especially if he gets 25 minutes like we have projected, I think he's okay. If you really need that value. I think Evan Mobley is also pretty interesting in large field GPPs. Cleveland is so much better than everyone else, and they really don't get played in tournaments. So I think Mobley is a very interesting large field GPP play. Yeah, I'm completely off Thompson now on both sites, just so everyone knows.
Yeah.
I'm not playing him in cash games either. So I'm going to Whitmore in all my stuff now.
If it goes poorly, are you going to be pissed at me because I was the one who slammed my fist on the table and said,
"No, I will not. I will not be mad at you. I promise."
Just checking. All right.
Yeah.
Take me to the center spot, Tim. What are we doing there?
So I think it's very, very easy to play Jokic in cash games. So I think that's what you should be doing. He's 12-2. It's a really, really good spot. It should be I would think it should be a pretty decent game also. So I'm pretty excited to watch this game. Mark Williams at 5.5 you can also roster. Wemby on DK is okay if you want to play him, obviously, and he's going to be fairly low owned. I just think he's a easier and better play on FanDuel, but I'm not going to tell anybody they can't play Wemby. Obviously, he has like 90 fantasy point upside. Yeah. So I'm not getting there personally, but if people want to play him, go for it. Some mid-range options to consider, I think, are Misi at 5,800, Joe Val at 51. And I think Wendell Carter, who I should have mentioned at power forward. Wendell Carter is probably a better power forward play than center, but he's a pretty good play at 5,100.
Okay, good stuff. Taylor, your thoughts at the center spot, please. We've got about 7 minutes until lock.
Yeah, Mark Williams looks awesome here, like we've said. Valanciunas as well. Jokic at the high end. I think Şengün looks better now. He's pretty expensive on DK, but they're down bodies. Celtics on a back-to-back. I think that's fine. Towns against a bad rebounding Thunder team is also okay. Hartenstein revenge on the other side of that one. And then Goga I mentioned on FanDuel, also good on DK.
Okay, good stuff. Guys, so let's dive into the QQs. Hey, if you're watching this, make sure you hit us with the thumbs up. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. It is free content. We're trying to get all the eyeballs that we can, so make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. And let's dive into the QQs, starting with the RotoGrinders Discord. Tim, who are you playing from the 7 o'clock games on FanDuel? Bridges, Asar, Mark Williams, other? Or are you just waiting and fading all of that?
I'm going just Bridges now.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a good question. I would not fault anybody if they wanted to play Mark Williams or Micic, but I'm just going to play Bridges.
Okay. J Sam says, can you ask the guys what their rule of thumb is when playing guys on the same team to avoid negative correlation? I remember we used to have a correlation chart. I think, do we have one for NBA? A correlation chart?
Don't know.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't remember seeing that. But do you have some sort of hard and fast rule of thumb, Taylor, or not? Not really. Kind of a case by case basis.
Yeah, it depends on slate size. It depends on
Price.
salary. Yeah, things like that. Like so 2 guys that are going to get most of the usage. If they're both expensive, generally you want one of them. But if they're both cheap, then both together is fine.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we've got. Alex says, who are the core 4 in DK cash? I need to eat. Alex says he wants to eat, Taylor. You got a core 4? Or maybe just a couple more guys?
So Cam Whitmore for sure. Now that he's cleared to play a ton of minutes. Other than that, maybe a Pelican, Trey Murphy, or DeJounte Murray. Probably Trey Murphy for me. Steph Castle on DK especially. Let's see. Who would be another
Bridges.
Yeah, Bridges.
Yeah.
Jokic on DK also.
I'll give a core 3 of Bridges, Castle, and Jokic. That's like my core 3.
Jokic. Okay. All right.
Yep.
Let's see. What else do we have? Tim, this is almost a similar question. Hang on. Wait. First, T-Top says, last piece in, Tim, Champagny or Cam Whitmore?
Well, not knowing the rest of your team, I'm just going to say Whitmore because he is the better play.
Okay. Swagging with Chris says, Tim, top 2 FanDuel points per dollar plays tonight. And then he's kind of talking about backloading the slate, which you mentioned you're only playing one dude from the early games.
Yeah, just because there is a lot more important news with that Memphis stuff. So top 2 point per dollar plays. I think you should be playing Castle and Bridges, and Bridges does lock the first game of the slate. So those 2 definitely.
Okay. Luke Cage says DKGPP. If Brunson is out, is campaign viable? Taylor, is Brunson going to be out?
He and McBride are game time decisions. So yeah, Payne, if he starts again, is going to be viable for sure.
Yeah, both of them would need to be out.
Gotcha.
Whoever would start, I think McBride or Payne.
I know you don't want to wait super long for news, Roth, but that is an 8 p.m. game. I'm currently running things with, I have 53% Cameron Payne, and then I'm just going to get none of it if, obviously, those guys play.
And then are you also getting to more like Josh Hart? Because he's double upside.
Yeah, I have 20% Hart, 20% Towns, 50% Payne.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'll just hammer all of that down because I'm mostly backloading my lineups anyways if Brunson ends up in.
Yeah. Okay. Good notes, guys. DKGPP in a 3 max, Taylor. Would you lock Whitmore or swap one of them to Asar?
I think I'm okay with locking Whitmore, but I prefer Kelvin Johnson to Asar at this point.
Nice. We want Dean says for Tim, DK single entry. Will Van lower end guys be good value with them playing OT last night, or conversely, will their studs be good value with ownership percentage? Van?
Yeah, Vancouver. He's talking about hockey. Yeah, you can play cheap Vancouver.
Okay. I was so confused. I was like, man, it's a long time since we've had Vancouver to talk about. Okay. That makes sense. Let's see where we're at. FanDuel Cash, Tim. 2v2 Wells and Triple J or Micic and Bain?
So don't put in Micic. Just play the first one, and wait for news.
Okay, great. This is a follow-up on the correlation question. So, Taylor, is Keldon and Vassell okay together? I also have Joker in this lineup.
Yeah, I think so. I would probably avoid Keldon and Harrison Barnes because I'm not sure they're going to overlap a lot, but I think Vassell and Keldon are fine.
Okay. FanDuel power forward spot. Actually, the question, Taylor, is Bridges at small forward or power forward?
Probably power forward. I think it's a little bit weaker on this slate.
Okay. We got a big man question. Mr. Perfect says on DK, I want 2 of these big men, Williams, Goga, J-Val. Who are your 2 favorites of those 3, Tim?
Williams and Goga.
All right. Jay Swift pointing out PJ Washington and Maxi Kleba are in. Swag with Chris says, are you playing 7:30 guys? Or are you backloading even more than that? That Memphis game is until 10. How many spots are you leaving open? These are very specific questions.
On FanDuel, I definitely am backloading longer than 7:30.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Tim, DKGPP, you mentioned Cleveland. Is Maximum Strus okay in a DKGPP?
I don't think so. Let me just check and make sure. Yeah, I don't love it. No.
Okay. Showboat King says, Roth, you cannot fade big body Keldon Johnson when he's being touted like this. Oh, I can. We've broken up. We're divorced. I'm no longer on the big body train. Less than a minute until lock. Make sure you get those lineups in. Drew, or Wendell Carter straight up?
I think I would go Carter, just because Drew's an old on a back-to-back.
Okay. Judy says, FanDuel single entry Taylor. Your favorite spend up, Wemby or Tatum?
Wemby.
Tim,
I'm just going to slide past the fact that Taylor called Drew Holiday unold.
An old. He is an old. I am too. I understand. Jim says, hey guys, would you play Tim? Would you play Tobias Harris for Detroit and CJ McCollum? Would you play Tobias Harris for Detroit and play CJ McCollum and Murphy or D Murray for New Orleans? So Tobias and CJ or Murphy and DeJounte Murray. I think.
Go the Murphy DeJounte.
Okay.
Yeah.
With that, we have hit lock. We did get some questions. Eric says, "What's old? Over 40?" Yeah, but in the NBA, it's over 30. Right?
I'm older than Drew Holiday, so I can call him that, I think, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're both olds. You're both an old.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? We did the thing. We're gonna bounce on out of here. Excellent work. Thoughts on subjecting yourself? I love the way you worded this. Aside says your thoughts on subjecting yourself to Keon Ellis in FanDuel Cash, Tim.
I'm not on for cash games.
Yeah.
I'm
Mr.
okay with
Richard and Showboat King saying, I am ancient. That's fine. We appreciate all ages here on the RG stream. Tim, Kleba or Strus?
Can I say neither?
Yes, please, God, say neither.
Okay, then neither. Yeah.
You just can't trust Kleba. What does he do? He might get 30 minutes and get 7 fantasy points.
if you want a rando from Dallas, I think it's probably that Prosper, because they're so shorthanded and they're probably going to get blown out, and he's a young guy. They just don't have forwards. I think Prosper is probably a rando that you might want to try.
Yeah. And Kleba could get hot and hit 5 threes, but probably not. He very rarely does. It's just not. He's just a dude you can't play almost ever, I think. Okay. With that, we have hit the lock. We have surpassed the lock. I think we're going to bounce on out of here. So for Tim and for Taylor, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.